Well, September of 2017 has begun, which means it's time once more for This Week at TEG, brought to you by me, Steve Bowden, and of course the Archmage at Greenwood.
Well met.
And the Archmage here is fresh from his annual appearance at Fan Expo Canada in his home city of Toronto, where he attended his usual panels, many with gaming friends he sees year after year, many fans and autographed things for them, and any special fun this year, Ed?
Well, Fan Expo was a very long day, but it was a great day. You see, for me, conventions are mainly a chance to do two things: meet up with old friends and make new ones, especially fans. And at Fan Expo yesterday, I was able to make the acquaintance of fans who come all the way from Switzerland, Indonesia, and New Zealand. Not to mention some delightful old friends from my Brookbanks library days. I also got the chance to chat with two of my original Realms players, Ken Woods, owner of Black Oak Brewery, craft beer fans, and Jim Clark, who was looking very natty in Near Spirit wear, as in Spirit from DC Comics. They helped forge the Realms into the vast, rich world that it is. Every year at Fan Expo, I also have the great pleasure to do panels with Robin D. Laws and Malcolm Shepard, whose good-natured brilliance is a joy to experience, and every year I get a chance to do panels with friends I don't see as often. This year it was Andrew Hackard, Robert Schwalb of Shadow of the Demon Lord fame, and Jeremy Crawford of Wizards of the Coast, the rules guru for 5th edition D&D. I also got the chance to hang out with the delightful ladies of Baka, Leia and Rebecca, and Andrew Volkoskas of the Fate of the Norns Ragnarok fame, one of the most visually beautiful game lines you'll ever lay eyes on. Don't miss it. Before beginning the long and harrowing drive home. But as you can see, I made it.
Hey, Mr. Greenwood. So, where are we?
We're at Fan Expo. Again, this is the 2017 Fan Expo. So here we are.
And where are we off to next?
We're off to Game Master Masterclass, a panel with Robin Laws and others, wherein we will discuss how to fix all your dungeon mastering and game mastering problems for your various role-playing games. We do this every year. It's a question and answer for a cast of zany thousands. And gotta go. They're waiting for me there now. You puzzle out, and you finally figured out the meaning. Speak friend and enter, or whatever it is. And you set off the thing, and then the inscription changes. Were you bad last night? Because the inscription's changed now, and it says something else. And when I speak friend and enter, it no longer works. Oh shit. Hello, Purple Worm. Hello, Green Dragon.
I'm Jeremy Crawford. I'm the lead rules developer for Dungeons & Dragons, as well as the game's managing editor, which means I oversee the publication of every book that comes out for D&D. I've been at Wizards of the Coast for 10 years, so it means I've worked on the tail end of 3rd edition, all of 4th edition, and then helped steer the creation of 5th edition. You might also know that I'm one of the designers of the romantic role-playing game Blue Rose many years ago.
And I'm at Greenwood. I've worked on every edition of D&D except 5th.
There's still time. That is
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So in Volo's Guide to Monsters,
Yeah.
Ed was Volo and Elminster.
Yes, okay, that's true. Yes, I was.
I hear we have a stockpile of questions from those wanting to know more about the Forgotten Realms.
Indeed we do, and I'd like to dedicate the rest of our time to those questions, because they are many. But before we get started, it's important to note that neither I, personally, nor the Ed Greenwood Group have any say in anything new for the realms outside of what we produce for the cities I'm opening up at DM's Guild in our Realms at Teg line. Which is another way of saying we can't help you publish your own Realms works, nor can we advise you on how to get in with Wizards of the Coast. Still, Realms questions seem to come up often, so now's a good time to address them. Steve, please fire when ready.
Okay. First, we have this one from Lee. L-E-I-G-H, not L-E-E. So, this could be a massive long shot, he said, trying to impersonate Lee. But what's life if you don't try? I'm thinking about writing up a D&D Wizard Academy setting location. Getting it out there, getting art made, that's schmozzle. I was wondering if you had any thoughts you'd care to share about the goings-ons in such a facility, or how you think they work, etc. In my head, it's sort of like the X-Mansion meets adult Harry Potter filled with super geniuses, they're wizards after all, and illusionists pulling pranks, etc. But I'd love any and all thoughts you may have. Happy to talk cost if there are any contribution concerns or whatever too. My head works in the realms, and that's where I'm aiming for, and who better to ask than the expert who would know?
Well, there are many such facilities in the realms already, so by all means create new ones. You can, of course, only publish it through the Dungeon Masters Guild. When I'm creating such things, I ask myself first, who established it and why? In other words, was its founder looking to make a living? Get him, her, itself a steady supply of apprentices, servants, magical experiment subjects? Or to follow or further some cause or other? That shapes how such academy begins. Second, what do the neighbors think? Unless the place is truly Wilderland remote, most places in the realms are ruled by someone, even if their rule is tenuous and from a distance. How are they going to feel about a house full of crazy wizards? Crazy, untrained wizards? A fortress full of crazy, untrained wizards? Are they going to try and wipe it out? Install official overseers and unofficial spies? Tax the daylights out of the mages? Force the academy to train house wizards for the ruler or local noble families? Or, Third, does anyone else cast their eye on the academy? The Zentarim, or the Red Wizards of Thay, or the Twisted Rune, or rogue Manchus, or a thieving guild or rogue noble family? What effect does that attention have? And fourth, the unfolding history of life in the academy and any magical disasters or little accidents that may happen. All of these factors will shape any house rules the academy has, its security, what stops adventurers from just waltzing in and taking what they'd like, or just exterminating all of these dangerous wizards that are a curse upon our lands. It's traditions and the current aims, political affiliations, and daily activities of the folk of the Academy. Oh yes, and how they get things to eat, / earn a few coins to pay for firewood or parchment or roof slates or tiles or whatever else they need. Whatever it is, they're going to have to make it, buy it, or steal / seize it. And the latter is going to bring on a backlash. Always consider how things that you create fit into the wider tapestry of the realms. That will shape how they turn out, as well as them shaping the realms.
We have another question, this one from David, and this is a question that gets asked quite often. My D&D group recently started a new campaign. Our DM asked us to write backstories of our characters, and I have become so engrossed in my character that my backstory has written itself and has continued into quite a serious writing adventure. My question is, would it be possible to write this as a Forgotten Realms book using the lore and locations of Fey Unrun, or would I need to start from scratch and create my own world?
David, I'm sorry, but as of right now, there's no way to get new Realms fiction published. I'm not saying you'll never see Realms novels again, because never is a long, long time. But even through the DM's Guild, long-form fiction is a no-no. Very short vignettes that are tied to new game lore that appears in the same product seem to be okay. But if I were you, I'd write the whole thing up with your heart in it and all the color and verve that brings, save it for yourself, privately, then make a copy of it, easy on computers these days, and go through that copy, changing names, places, and groups. You can't use a Realms faction like the Emerald Enclave or the Zentrum, but perhaps you could do what most DMs do anyway, and tweak such organizations and cabals and power groups to be different from their published forms, more the way you'd like them. So go through the whole book changing things, and then sit back for a month and do other things. Then take the book out and read it again and ask yourself, what does it need change to make it a better story, now that it doesn't have to match the realms? Make those changes. Then read it again and ask yourself, is it really still the realms? If it is, you'll have to make more changes. And there'll probably be improvements anyway, because you're making it more your own story with every change you make. I know you'll still see the realms in its paragraphs and chapters, but will everyone? If it's no longer the realms, you can publish it anywhere. No one owns the tropes of fantasy. Then ask yourself, is it different enough, good enough, to be a good read? If the answer is yes, you've written your own fantasy book. Be proud of it and get it out there. Fantasy readers are voracious. As a group, we all want new stuff to read all the time.
Next up, we have a question from Maxwell. Hello. I would like to know what happened to the Master's Library in the Forgotten Realms 5th edition.
For those wondering which Master's Library in the Realms Maxwell is asking about, I sent him a line and learned that he meant the Temple of Denir in Iron Dragon Mountain in the Earthfast Mountains between Impultur and the Vast in northern Faerun, caverns that were once a dragon's lair. Considered by many the greatest repository of books on Abir Toril, it's the site where the metatext was pieced together. Well, that Magic Library, Master's Library, is still there. However, it's nigh inaccessible now, unless you can fly, because most of the trails ascending to it were destroyed in the tumult, earthquakes, and landslides accompanying the sundering in that region of Faerun.
Our next question is from a fellow named Jabot. I was wondering if I wanted to write a novel series based in your world, could I? And if so, would it be okay if my character interacted with characters from your world and other writers made in your world? Also, I would like to create a good plot and events that happen in your world, but I was wondering about these things. In one of R.A. Salvatore's books, he gives thanks to you, giving him a world to work with. which made me think you let him make his novels in your world, so I was wondering if I could do the same. Thank you for your time and all that you do and bring to this world. I owe you for showing me the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Jabot, you're very welcome. I still work on the realms every day of my life, both with designers at Wizards and individual gamers running their own realms campaigns. But, I'm sorry, the copyrights for the Forgotten Realms are now owned by TSR Incorporated, which is to say, these days, Wizards of the Coast, which means only they can give you permission to write Realms novels. That includes any use of Forgotten Realms places, things, terms, organizations, and characters. I can't give you permission. You would be better off to avoid frustration and disappointment, and perhaps a wait of many years, too, by writing your own new fantasy series set in your own world. Let the realms inspire you, by all means, but make the story you tell your own, in your own world. After all, that's how fantasy gets all of its great new tales. Many gamers, from Raymond Feist to Patrick Rothfuss to George Railroad Martin, have become great writers and given us all wonderful new stories to enjoy. Join their ranks. This greedy reader is waiting.
Now we have a very specific question about a particular a particular monster from Chris. I just had a quick question. In the Forgotten Realms, do drakes have hind legs and wings, or hind legs, forelegs and wings? Specifically, I'm wondering about the smoke drake.
Every week I get a score or more of Realms lore queries like yours, Chris, and there may come a time when I stop answering Realms queries on Twitter and Facebook and confine myself to my blog and perhaps Candlekeep, where I've got time and word count space to do a proper job of it. However, that day is not this day, and you deserve an answer now. So, wyverns have hind legs and wings, but no forelegs. And drakes, according to the most learned sages, are distantly related to wyverns. But drakes have no wings and 4 legs. That is to say, isn't English wonderful? Drakes, very much including smoke drakes, have 4 legs and hind legs, but are wingless. And most individual drakes you'll encounter, certainly all of the adults, unless they've had something drastic and magical done to them, are big enough for adult humans to ride. I'm not saying that's a wise or prudent thing to do, mind you.
Books can be a challenge to find for many of us, as evidenced by this question from Benjamin. I'm working on a homebrewed campaign in the 5th edition D&D, and I was looking to use the Book of Dragons, mentioned in your 2012 hardcover, entitled Ed Greenwood Presents Elminster's Forgotten Realms, as a major plot device, but I can't find information on it anywhere. So I was wondering if you knew if it was in a source book for the games at all that I could convert, or if you could share a little more information about it.
First of all, I'd like the world to know that I didn't come up with the title for that hardcover or any of the Ed Greenwood Presents things. Such titles are immodest enough to make me cringe. Benjamin, what appears on page 24 of that tome, still in print, by the way, and as it's all Realms lore and not game rules, it's not out of date, is all the wider realms knows about the Book of Dragons, and all that you'll find in print, no matter where you look. The current whereabouts and contents of the Book of Dragons are both unknown, but I can tell you this much more about it. Sam Astor was right in believing that when a particular tale in the book is read aloud, a dragon of the sort told of in that story is released from extra-dimensional stasis into the realms, and arrives welled and free and under no compulsion, not to mention angry and hungry. And the keeper, that wizard who perished under torture, was correct, too, when he said that he lost the Book of Dragons to a dragon, who wrested it from him and took it for its own hoard. If anyone has since managed to take it from that dragon, or found it by some other means, the wider realms hasn't yet heard of it. Meaning you're free to make use of it, whatever use of it you wish, in your campaign without contradicting published realms lore. Have fun!
We have some Mistra mischief in this next one from a fellow named Joss. I'm about to DM my first D&D campaign, and I was recommended to start with the Forgotten Realms as a setting. I wanted to say thank you for crafting such an interesting world. The history, the gods, the geography, it's all really cool. I also had a lore question, and I was wondering about, and hoping you might know the answer if you could please help. My understanding is, during the Karsus folly, Mistrill sacrificed herself, but the new god, Mistra, replaced her as the god of magic. However, Mistrill also functioned as the god of time, though Amon Ator believed the portfolio of time technically belonged to him. What happened to this portfolio after Mistrill's death? Did Labalas Norelf, elven god of time, take full responsibility? Or did Amon Ator take control of what he believed to be his? Or perhaps some third option?
Here we go. So, Josh, mortals can never know the truth about such things because gods spin. They exaggerate, they embellish, and they outright lie. And so do their mortal clergy, usually without knowing they're telling untruths, because they believe the deity or the deity's servitors who've told them things. To the best of my understanding, Ao took much of the real power of time to himself, to hold it from the gods, because he foresaw how it could be misused. Labalas gained a greater measure of power and thought he'd got it all, and that Mistral had been less mighty in her sovereignty over time than she'd presented herself to the rest of the realms, and Amonitor got a little of it, and ended up thinking the same thing. The result of all this? All deities can cast Time Stop, as in the spell of that name known to wizards, and some of them can work a Sleep of Ages or temporal stasis, the way certain mortal mages can, but no one can time travel, the way some science fiction writers think and write of it, jumping back and forth in time and meddling. Labalas, Amonitor, and for that matter, Ao, can do a bit more, usually involving conferring limited immunity from aging on an individual mortal, or giving vigorous longevity to a mortal bloodline, or even casting someone out of time, so that they're nowhere, and aging not at all, because time passes in a blinking instant for them, only to have them reappear days, months, years, decades, or even centuries later, back in the normal flow of time, having not aged at all, and usually winding up bewildered by the way the realms has changed around them during what was, to them, just a fleeting moment. So, no jaunting back and forth in time in the realms, killing your grandmother, or murdering a king 6 kings before this one, or even hiding gems or investing with a moneylender so you can wind up rich in your time. Not in my realms. In your realms, of course. You can do whatever you'd like. And in the words of Aemon Targaryen, and more than a few literary and historical characters before him, live with it for the rest of your days.
I have a short and sweet question from Joseph. I just read the work Death Masks. Why is Mistra weakening her chosen, but no other powerful mages?
After the Sundering, all of the gods have returned. Even the dead gods are alive again. All of them are diminished to some extent, and all of them are more distant, taking a less direct hand in the daily lives of mortals, no longer walking daily in the realms in avatar form. It's almost, hint, hint, as if something is constraining them, as if Ao gave them all a good talking to, or even limited their powers. Mistra is no different from the rest of the gods in this, although, as the Weave, she remains more powerful than all the other gods, regardless of what propaganda this or that deity or clergy may spout. In Mistra's case, She now wants her chosen to play less superhero and do more quiet manipulation and direct guiding behind the scenes, encouraging the ever wider use of magic by making more magic available to all and curbing only those who seek to limit magic from others or to destroy others who work magic. Samaster and Banshun didn't work out so well as agents. Kelvin and some of the Seven have burned out or become battlefield losses. Elminster has literally been through hell and seems to have triumphed mostly through dogged perseverance and endurance. Perhaps having less powerful mortal agents will work better when the mortal agents of all other deities are lessened too. It's time to let mere mortals show what they can do. Or, as Elminster might say, how good a mess they can make of things. That's the in-game explanation, Joseph. The metagame explanation goes more like this. For years, I have worked with in-house game designers as well as book editors on my Realms novels to make sure that each book doesn't screw up some future planned game event or even outside game license, and each book does detail, advance, or reinforce this or that detail that can set up future scenes, such as the fleeting giant scenes in Death Masks that set up Storm King's Thunder, or the fleeting Xanathar scene that sets up Xanathar's Guide to Everything. In short, I work with my great friends at Wizards to include a shopping list of small details to knit the realms closer together, to make it richer, and to support future events and elements. For Death Masks, that even included making sure Omen Dran, the founder of Acquisitions Incorporated, got mentioned as a masked lord of Waterdeep. I worked with Chris Perkins, head of story at Wizards, and in-house designer Adam Lee on all sorts of details, depicting the Chosen as less powerful and less publicly aggressive too, was one of them.
And the last question for this week is from Emil. I'm not sure if you can comment on this, but if in any capacity Mr. Greenwood can, I really want to know more about the Kadhi. The honest truth is that even before I realized the hand that he had played in writing the lore about her, I wanted his opinion on the subject. I trust his word, obviously and implicitly. I've read through most of the published materials, aside from the novels, that discussed her, and I know Mr. Greenwood has done Q&As on Reddit and such before, but I don't know how to catch each one. If I can get that schedule or somehow find a place or time or a way to get through, it would mean so much to me. The reason for this is that this is actually the faith I actually follow, and while typically I would forge my own way, I really want to know if there's any way I can learn more.
Emil, personal faith is a vast and complicated matter, but I'm happy to try to answer any specific questions you may have. Let's go. Kadhi, the Queen of Air, is a primordial, one of the few who didn't battle the gods in ancient times. She's still venerated in the realms as a goddess today, specifically the goddess of elemental air, speed, and flying creatures. She's one of the 4 so-called elemental lords, and has no peer among deities of air, though Talos and Umberlee hold more direct on-the-spot power over storms in the realms than she does. Her great foe is Grumbar, the elemental god of earth. Kadhi is immortal, even more aloof from mortals than the gods have recently become, and is dedicated to freedom and travel. When she does have direct contact with mortals, she always tells them to move as much as possible from place to place and from activity to activity. In our world, that would mean dwelling in many different places and trying many different vocations and avocations, jobs and hobbies or activities, though mining and farming and fertilization should not be among them, as having to do with the earth, which is the domain of her enemy Grumbar. Kadhi is now in Abir, having left Toril during the Second Sundering. However, she retains influence in Abir thanks to existing worshippers and in her aspect of Eordri Fenya, who is still one of the Seldarine gods of the elves. So to venerate a Kadhi, speak her name with reverence upon awakening. For the closest contact with her, say her name at dawn. And at dawn, sacrifice to her by burning incense in a breeze, so its smoke is carried upon the winds. For a Kadhi is the wind. After the incense begins to send its smoke forth, take the time for a deep, slow breath. Then ask a Kadhi what you want to know, or for aid or guidance, or relate your need or complaint, and she will hear. She seldom replies directly, but often sends a sign to her devout in their next time of dreaming. A Kadhi's visible power is most often seen in the rising or coming of a wind, or a shower or real rainstorm coming to where she's been prayed to. The devout worshipper of a Kadhi travels whenever they can, listens to the winds, and acts upon any whims that strike them, for some are sent by the goddess, and others will please her because eager and swift change is her way, and she is pleased to see it embraced by mortals. If you venerate a Kadhi, and you hit upon something unusual that interests you, something experimental where you will be discovering or creating something new, do it, for this is the way of a Kadhi.
More questions for the Archmage will be answered in future broadcasts.
That's right, but to get questions answered, you need to send them in. You can click the link below to get to the Realms at Teg website, where amid all the lore and interesting announcements, you can find the forum to ask me your own questions.
You can also sign up for the Patron program, which will let you learn all the news about what the Ed Greenwood group is doing in the Realms, giveaways and contests, and all the other great things we have going for in this spectacular and legendary setting.
And of course, all of this leads to this week's giveaway.
That's right, just sign up for the newsletter at the link below and receive a free PDF copy of All Things Through the Bright Flames, the latest Forgotten Realms work from Ed Greenwood.
Plus, you get the added bonus of being in the know about our ongoing contest, like Your Realms Tale, where you could get the chance to publish your very own Forgotten Realms game adventure working alongside me.
That's a win-win all the way around, to be sure, and you should pounce on the chance right now. So we'll stop talking and say goodbye right now from the Ed Greenwood group.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.